Tell us about Moldova then. What is it like on the ground over there? What did you witness?
Well, as you said, Moldova is a tiny country, 2.6 million people, sandwiched between Romania and Ukraine. And as an ex-Soviet republic, it feels very much in the way, given that Russia seems to be hell bent on expanding back into its in the former territories it controlled. We heard President Zelensky yesterday saying that that was the case, that Russia wouldn't stop with Ukraine, it would push on, seen as perhaps the next domino. And prior to the election of the pro-Western, pro-EU government that you spoke of, Moldova in the last decade has been very much under the thumb of various oligarchs, powerful politicians, business interests, often with ties to Russia. The new government has put them on the run, as it were. Two powerful oligarchs have been forced into exile. One of them, however, still controls a political party in Moldova. They've been responsible for these noisy demonstrations out on the street, both last year and this week. And there's a big one planned for today in Chisinau, the capital. Now, earlier this week, Moldovan President Maya Sandu said that she feared that Russia was dispatching saboteurs undercover into Moldova to whip up protest, to actually try and sort of sabotage the economy, bring the government down. So people are putting two and two together and thinking that maybe the protests, which are officially about the cost of living, may be whipped up by these saboteurs coming in. Nothing
or even staged by them, Tom, do you think?
I think it would. They're staged ostensibly by this political party run by this oligarch Ilan Shor, who is currently in hiding in Israel. I was amongst the protesters this week. I didn't see too many saboteurs on the ground there. They were mostly pensioners. But you never know. You never know what's going to happen in coming weeks if Russia is really determined to tighten the screws, whip up opposition to this pro-EU government, get things going again. People point out that the protests last year, run by this man Ilan Shor, featured some really quite thuggish types. They camped out outside Parliament. I was talking to an MP who said that they were armed with knives and guns. They were trying to set fire to police cars. So it got quite serious last year. And I think the fear is that maybe that could happen again now.
So Moldova's essentially a pretty vulnerable country at the moment. How can the West, or can the West step in? There's certainly been warnings from Zelensky, as you say, but what can the country do, or what can other nations do to try and put it on a sure footing? Because if they're vulnerable, of course, they are more susceptible to any influence from Russia.
Well, I think a start was made last year when both the UK and the US put two of these oligarchs suspected of ties to Russia, who are both in exile now, under sanctions. And that was, I think, a really an appreciated sign in Moldova that the West was keeping an eye and was hoping, trying to kind of align itself with Moldova and cracking down on these players who, particularly the US, has come out very publicly and said are agents for change, acting on behalf of Russia in Moldova. I think there's quite a lot of subsidies going in. I think it's also just about public attention. I think that what Russia would like is for the West to kind of ignore Moldova. And so that would allow Russia just to carry on business as usual. So as long as the West is talking about Moldova and making Moldova feel that it could actually join the EU in coming years, that will inspire Moldovans to keep faith in their government. And that's a government which right now is a bulwark against Russian influence.